Beelzebub is another name for Satan. And he said when he saw that beauty of Our Lady, he knew he would always be second best. He knew that there was no way he would ever achieve that level of beauty, and he wanted that beauty for himself. So at a certain point, I said to Beelzebub, because he'd mentioned that, a little bit later during the sessions, I said to him, I commanded him to tell me, what about her beauty didn't you like? Because he refused God to serve God's will because he had given Our Lady this beauty and he didn't give it to him. And I said, what about it didn't you like? And he said, well, it was the purity of her beauty. I'm like, well, that's a pretty broad statement. And then I said, well, what about the purity of her beauty didn't you like? He said, it was the purity of her love. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty broad statement too. What is it about the purity of her love that you didn't like? He said, it was the fact that when she sacrificed herself to God, she never once counted the personal cost. That means that Our Lady is different from every single individual sitting in this church. We always count the personal cost. We think about how much we're going to suffer when we have to give up something. I mean, as an exorcist, a lot of times I'll tell people to start fasting, and then all of a sudden you get the wailing and gnashing of teeth. Oh, Father, I can't do this. You're just like, it's not that hard, right? The point being is that we count the personal cost, even in our own personal relationships. You see this even in marriage, where people are, there's the relationship, and I kind of circle around a little bit to that in relationship to woundedness, is that they're calculating how much they're willing to give their spouse based on how much it's going to hurt, right? Okay. So then he said, and it wasn't just the fact that she never counted the personal cost. He said that basically she never, any time God asked her of anything, she never took herself into the accounting of the equation of what was to be done. She just said yes, she just did it, right? So there's this complete selflessness in that process. So in that sense, she's different from all of us. She's different from every other human being because we count the personal cost. But then he said, and it wasn't just that. It was the fact that she did it over and over and over again and never counted the personal cost once. That means that not only is she different from all of us, she's different from every single saint. She's different from every single angel in heaven. All of the angels, in fact, he said, what made me so angry was the fact that she got to sacrifice herself over and over and over again, and I only got to sacrifice myself once. And so he said, knowing that, I knew I could never achieve the level of her interior beauty. Now notice what he's saying. One is that there's no angel that's like her either. This is why the saints say that the sanctity of Our Lady, well, let's just back up a bit. St. Louis Marie de Montfort says that a single sigh from Our Lady is more meritorious than all the martyrdoms and all of the prayers, sufferings, and good works of all of the saints combined. And the reason being is because there is no one who sacrificed, other than her son, who sacrificed herself in that manner. No one. And this is, and in fact, the saints say that even her sanctity is greater than all of the saints and all of the angels combined. This tells you something about her, that if God ultimately had to choose between us, the totality of all of creation, and her, he would choose her. Because she is the most magnificent creature, other than Christ, that walked the earth, that was created. He had a particular predilection for her. She was different from everybody else. So when you hear people say, oh, we're just like Our Lady, I'm like, oh, shut up. Part of it is it's quasi-blasphemous, frankly. Okay.